Hello. Today we will be presenting to you a concept analysis of resiliency. Those presenting this presentation will be myself, Jeremy Cathy, Chandra Jason, and Lindsay Lewis. I hope you enjoy it. Now, let's think about what goes along with resiliency, such as background and the significance of it. Adversity is a key component to resiliency. We can't have it unless we have adversity. Now, many people face adversity in everything that they do, if it's in work or daily pressures of going through life. Nurses have a great amount of adversity due to specific changes that are going on in work conditions and conflicts among staff and managerial or financial priorities. This can create a lot of adversity. Through the adversity comes resiliency. If a person can continue on and put these problems behind them, then they will have a better chance of making it with resiliency. Now, how does this relate to nurses and nurse practitioners primarily? Well, as we know, nurse practitioners have a very adverse life due to the way that they were created. They were created originally as physician mediators. So they were placed in the most poverty conditions pretty much because the physicians didn't want to take care of her and didn't have time. So with that, going to what we know now in the present, we know that nurse practitioners are not just physician mediators, but they are primary care advocates, primary care providers, and this goes along in many different fields. Um, so we know that based off of this, that within the last couple of years, even the Louisiana State Senate has tried to stop nurse practitioners as they pertain to their field. Last year, a bill was introduced that tried to move the nurse practitioners from their own Louisiana State Board of Nursing to the Board of Medical Examiners. This was stopped due to a large part of nurses and nursing students and nurse practitioners writing to their congressmen, writing to their respected representatives and letting them know that this was wrong and didn't need to be done. Look at three specific articles that deal with resiliency. The first one was written by Gillespie, Choi, Bayer, and Wallace in 2007. And this involved a theoretical model that they composed around resiliency. What did they find out? They concluded that there had to be three main attributes to have resiliency: self-efficiency, hope, and caring. Now, self-efficiency is defined as a task that can be performed by oneself that can be performed in a superb manner. Hope is defined as striving or envisioning a better future for ourselves or our loved ones. And coping has to be there because what happens is during a stressful situation, you have to be able to adapt. And that's where the coping mechanism comes in. Our second article will involve the authors McDonald, Jackson, Wilkes, and Vickers. Now, they conducted a clinic-based research among nurses and midwives of the same clinic. What they looked at was, can workplace adversity help to promote an individual resiliency? What they found out was there were three major themes that emerged from this, which was you had personal gains from resiliency, you had professional gains from resiliency, and you had personal resilience initiations. The conclusion is that a work-based education can enhance individual resiliency, thereby reducing the nurse and midwives lost in the workplace due to professional burnout. Our last article is going to be by Edward and Herkel Linsky, which looked at professional nursing burnout and resilient behaviors. Now, nursing at one time was a profession that allured prestige and attraction, but that's diminished due to budget cuts and the loss of experienced nurses. So, this caused an increased workload, which promoted more professional nursing burnout. Now, here's what they found out, that nurses can transcend the stress through resilient behaviors, and these behaviors can be developed through support and education in the workplace.
The purpose of a concept analysis. Concepts are building blocks in theory construction, therefore they must be strong to uphold the theory. For a concept to be strong, it must be explained and defined clearly so that the reader can get an understanding of what is being described. The reader must first understand the structure and function of the concept. According to Walker and Avant, the purpose of a concept analysis is to examine the structure and function of the concept. The concept analysis defines the concept and prevent defining characteristics or attributes that are specific to the concept. From the attributes, the reader is then able to distinguish the concept from other related concepts. The concept analysis have been found useful in simplifying those generalized concepts in a theory and clarifying those vague concepts that are prevalent in nursing. By clearly defining the concept, the nursing profession will have the same understanding of the concept. The purpose of the concept analysis that we are conducting is to examine and define the concept of resilience. Our concept analysis will provide meaning of the concept of resilience while gaining a better understanding of the attributes, antecedents, consequences, empirical indicators, and lastly providing an operational definition. The reader will be able to then distinguish resilience from other related concepts. The concept of resilience is very important to the nursing profession and should be mastered in order to prevent mental breakdown and burnout in the workplace. The concept analysis will simplify the concept of resilience and provide valuable information needed to become more resilient in the workplace.
Hey everyone, my name is Lindsay Lewis, and I will now discuss the definitions and defining attributes. Resilience has many everyday definitions. It can be defined as an object's elasticity, its ability to spring back into shape, or it can be defined as one's ability to rebound from stress or trauma. The defining attributes of resilience include self-efficacy, hope, and coping. Self-efficacy is our confidence in ourselves to accomplish a task. An individual's beliefs regarding self-efficacy governs the length of time he or she will persevere when adversity is actually experienced. Therefore, resilience increases along with our sense of efficacy. Hope is our belief in goal achievement. It's future-oriented. In the development of resilience, hope allows us to visualize and aim for a better future. Coping is our repetitive swaying of cognitive and behavioral efforts in an attempt to handle excessive stressors. So, as a defining attribute for resilience, coping influences our ability to evaluate the situation objectively and then allow for adjustment. Our theoretical definition of resilience is the ability to face adverse situations with self confidence to overcome, envisioning a better future, and coping with the outcome as evidenced by returning back to the regular routine of life. Model cases, also called exemplar cases, provide examples of how concepts are used while demonstrating each defining attribute. We used Walker and Avant and Chin and Kramer's criteria for developing model cases to develop this following case. A new graduate nurse failed state boards. He believed that he would be a licensed nurse upon taking the retake. He had confidence in his ability to achieve a passing score. He utilized social support to alter his response to an unchangeable situation. He went on to pass his retake of state boards and is now a successful practicing registered nurse. You can see here in this example that each of our defining attributes are used: self-efficacy, hope, and coping. When the new graduate nurse failed state boards, that was the adverse event. That was adversity. He displayed hope in believing that he would be a licensed nurse upon retaking the test. He displayed his self-efficacy in his confidence in his ability to achieve a passing score. And coping is seen when he utilized his social support system to alter his response to an unchangeable situation. Related cases involve a different concept that is very much like the concept being studied. Here we use Walker and Avant's criteria as well as Chin and Kramer's criteria to construct a related case. A new graduate nurse failed state boards. She took this failure very hard and did not believe that she would be able to successfully pass the second time around. Passing state boards and becoming a licensed nurse seemed like a long shot to her. She relied on family and friends to help her through this difficult time. Despite her lack of hope and self-efficacy, she studied hard and passed the retake. Now she is a registered nurse. You can see here how this case is very much like our model case. We have the same adverse event in failing the state boards, except in this case, the new graduate did not display the self-efficacy and hope that the new graduate in the model case did. This is what makes this case a related case. It's very similar to the model case of resilience. It just does not include each defining attribute as the model case does. Chin and Kramer refer to borderline cases as examples of metaphoric or pseudo uses of the concept being studied. Borderline cases exist when the same concept is used but in a different context. In the World of Warcraft, the video game, resilience is referred to as something that lessens the player's chances of their enemy scoring a critical hit, as well as something that decreases the damages of a critical strike. You can see here how this is completely different than the way we are using resilience in our concept analysis, and completely different than any of the ways that we have seen it used in all of the literature that we have reviewed. Contrary cases are identified as not being examples of the concept being studied. Walker and Avant state that contrary cases are clearly not examples of the concept. So we use Walker and Avant and Chin and Kramer's criteria for constructing contrary cases to construct the following case. A new graduate nurse failed state boards. Although he graduated from a 4-year nursing program, he had always been a notoriously terrible standardized test taker. He just did not have the ability to overcome this fact. He never had faith that he would pass state boards or become a successful nurse. He went on to fail state boards 2 more times before giving up. It is easily recognizable that this case is completely different than our model case. In our model case, our new graduate displayed self-efficacy, hope, and coping, and went on to pass the retake. But here in this case, when this person is met with adversity, neither hope, self-efficacy nor coping shows up, this person does not have any self-confidence in themselves. They completely just give up. The last type of case that we constructed is the invented case. Invented cases incorporate notions beyond what one has experienced themselves and often creates a better picture of the concept's critical defining attributes, especially for those more abstract concepts like resilience. This final case was constructed using Walker and Avant's criteria for invented cases. Suppose dinosaurs reappeared on Earth during the age of man. Mankind lost many lives in the dinosaurs' need to feed. Mankind began to fight back, believing that one day they would persevere over the dinosaurs and reclaim their spot at the top of the food chain. Mankind stuck together in grieving their lost loved ones and developed a machine that trapped all the dinosaurs and destroyed them. Of course, this is far-fetched, which is why it's called an invented case, but it kind of gives you a better understanding of resilience if you're having a hard time grasping the concepts of self-efficacy, hope, and coping in the model case. But here you can see that man is faced with adversity when the dinosaurs reappear. And then they are faced with more adversity when the dinosaurs start to feed on their own. So they stick together, they grieve their loved ones, and they fight back, showing self-efficacy, hope, and coping, and believing that they one day would again regain their status at the top of the food chain. So again, this is funny and it's invented, but again, it gives you a better understanding of resilience as a concept. Antecedents are the circumstances that must be in place before a concept can manifest itself. Resilience has 4 antecedents. They are that first, adversity or trauma must take place. Second, the interpretation of the situation needs to be a traumatic one. Third, the cognitive ability needs to be in place in that particular individual to interpret that adversity. And finally, that person needs to hold a realistic worldview. Consequences are the circumstances that manifest as a result of the concept taking place. So, as a result of resilience, 4 things happen. First, physical or psychological integration occurs. Second, the person develops control. Third, there is a psychological adjustment. And lastly, there's personal growth after the adverse situation happens.
Empirical indicators. According to Walker and Avant, empirical indicators are classes or categories of actual phenomena that by their existence or presence demonstrate the occurrence of the concept itself. Based on our concept, some empirical indicators that could be used to measure the concept of resilience include self-efficacy, hope, coping, perseverance, and reintegration. Currently, there are several instruments that measure the concept of resilience. The most reliable instrument used that encompasses the empirical indicators would be the 25-item resilience scale developed by Wagnall and Young. Wagnall and Young developed a resilience scale that is centered on 5 essential characteristics that they identified as needed in order for resilience to take place. The characteristics include purpose, perseverance, equanimity, self-reliance, and existential aloneness. These characteristics are closely related to our defining attributes and empirical indicators. Purpose is the realization that life has meaning and each individual has a reason to live. Perseverance is the willingness to continue through the struggle to rebuild one's life and remain involved despite adversity. Equanimity is the balanced perspective of life and experiences and remaining hopeful in the midst of adversity. Self-reliance is belief in one's self and one's personal strength. Existential aloneness is the realization that each person is unique, and although some experiences can be shared while others must be faced alone. The scale measures each item through detailed questions and serve as a way to measure the concept of resilience. Operational definition. The operational definition gives an overall view of the concept empirical indicators. This step has been targeted as the final step of the concept analysis. The empirical indicators included in our definition includes self-efficacy, hope, coping, perseverance, and reintegration. Resilience can be operationally defined as the ability to face adverse situations with self-confidence to overcome, envisioning a better future while actively going through the situation, and coping with the outcome as evidenced by returning back to the regular routine of life. The individual is working hard through those hard times and gaining experience that can be used in the future. From this definition, further research and theories can be conducted to explore the concept of resilience.
So to wrap things up, resilience is a continuous process that goes on throughout the lifespan where you battle adversity and you just refuse to give up. It manifests itself when one believes that they can directly influence the events in their lives, and then they convert these beliefs into actions. We have self-efficacy, hope, and coping as the critical defining attributes, and these three things are also three of the empirical indicators. Without adversity or trauma, the interpretation of the situation as being traumatic, the cognitive ability to interpret adversity, and a realistic worldview, resilience cannot take place. And as a result of resilience, we get physical or psychological integration, we develop control, we develop personal growth, and we also develop psychological adjustment. Resilience is so important to the profession of nursing, and it needs to be mastered to prevent mental breakdown and burnout in the workplace.